Now, we talked about inferences before on the reading section, but let's remind ourselves what an inference is. An inference is something that must be true based on the evidence that we're given. In other words, it cannot be false. It's not a reasonable guess or any sort of logical jump, but something that we can definitively conclude based on what we've been given. So on these questions, they're just going to give you a bunch of evidence, and that's what we have here. All of this is evidence. So don't look for a conclusion in here. There is none. Your job is to decide which one of these 5 answer options can be concluded based on the evidence that you're given. So go ahead and pause the video right now and try this out. Okay, let's take a look at this one. And I just want to reiterate, the correct answer here is one that can be definitively concluded from the evidence that we're given. No storytelling or assumptions required. So keep that in mind. All right, so we're given this story with a bunch of evidence about a rebellion and what the government is doing to crush it. So I'm going to start eliminating these answer options one by one. Lock in your answer now. You have it? Okay. First one that we're going to get rid of is answer option A. The harsh tactics employed by the government will only increase support for the rebels. There's a word in here that's a big red flag. Do you see it? It's that one. Will. That is a bold prediction. It's saying something will definitely happen. It's not saying something might happen or could happen. It's predicting that because of the harsh tactics, the population is going to support the rebels. We don't know how the population feels about the rebels. Maybe everyone hates the rebels, and the rebels are just an annoying ragtag team of people making trouble for everyone. So we cannot conclude that answer option A is true, right, or that it will happen. Okay, the next one that we're going to eliminate is answer option D. The campaign to crush the rebels is the top priority for the leaders of Bryant. Once again, there's a problematic word in here, or I should say 2 words. The top, right? What does that mean? It means that there is nothing more important to the leaders of this country than crushing the rebellion. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe they're much more concerned about the economy, right? Or education. Maybe these rebels are not a problem really at all. And they're just an annoyance for the government. And the government's going to do all these measures and take care of it, right? Answer option D, we cannot conclude, right? We can't infer answer option D. All right, what's next? Next one we're going to get rid of is answer option C. The rebels rely heavily on trade to support their cause. But wait, you say, the government cut off trade to the eastern sector. Doesn't that mean that the rebels rely on trade? Not necessarily. Just because the government did it doesn't mean it's an effective idea or a good idea, right? Maybe they're just doing this as a symbol. It's a symbolic thing to do. But we can't assume, we can't be 100% sure that the rebels rely heavily on trade. All right, down to B and E. Down to B and E. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? The wrong answer here is answer option B, unfortunately. The Capital District and Northern Steppe are now vulnerable to rebel attacks. And this is a tempting answer option because it's true. We moved the troops out of these places. But does that make them vulnerable? Or might they have other protections? Maybe they're behind a mountain range and not at risk at all. Maybe there's a big moat around them. Maybe there are robot machine guns. I mean, the list could go on and on and on, right? The bottom line is we can't definitively say that they're at risk or vulnerable to rebel attacks. Now, if this had said more vulnerable to rebel attacks, maybe, right? Because there were troops there before and now they're not. And so almost by definition, that makes them more vulnerable. But it doesn't say more vulnerable. It just says vulnerable, period. And so that is an assumption that we cannot make. And we're left with answer option E, which seems a little unsatisfying. And also, where at all in the passage did it talk about intelligence and strategic decision making? Well, I'll show you right here. Why did the government decide to do all of these things? Why did it decide to move the troops out of the Capital District in Northern Steppe? Why did it decide to cut off trade to the eastern sector? Well, all of this was premised on military reports. The government took military reports and use that to make a decision. Right? That's what this whole story is describing. And so the only thing that we can really say definitively is that the government trusts the military enough. You'll notice that it doesn't say completely, right? But it trusts it enough to use the intelligence, aka military reports, in strategic decision making, aka everything that it was doing. I just want to highlight here just how boring answer option E is, right? All these other ones are very, very exciting and kind of make you want to think more about the story. It's not about the story. It's about what can be definitively concluded from the argument. So the correct answer here is E.